in moving forward, in the next 100 days, what tactful examples can we expect?
So I've been meeting already with community groups, doing these conversations, interviews, my one-to-ones with staff members. I'm doing a lot of listening and trying to understand what people's hopes and expectations are. I've also been asking the question, what do you never want to see again from the Oakland Unified School District? What are the things where you're feeling disaffected, like you've been disrespected? What are the things that have gotten in the way of you feeling connected and excited about this organization? And I also have some pretty strong opinions, as I've been saying, about what it is we need to be working on. And so kind of setting that agenda, listening to people, trying to meet them where they are and say, I appreciate what I'm hearing, and here's where we need to maybe map that onto a new way of doing support for schools, for example. I think I have a very strong belief that people in schools are working really hard in service of children. So I trust teachers and I trust principals, and there's a way that the system has been set up under No Child Left Behind in the last basically 8 to 10 years, that it's been so stripped down. Like the curriculum has been stripped down, it's been so test focused that we've lost touch with the bigger, more exciting, the joy, the kind of wonder, the teachable moments have been almost stripped out of our schools. So in the next 100 days for me, a lot of it is about language, a lot of it is about commitment, about talking about moving away from kind of transactional relationships into what are we committed to? What's our core purpose, and how are we going to make decisions together? I'm putting myself out as a person who's going to take responsibility for leading these conversations, for being in all parts of the city with all groups, and so I'm already trying to demonstrate that by the different places that I've been going. I think that the big challenge in the first 100 days is to manage expectations in some ways. I mean, because this is going to be not just a marathon, it's going to be an ultra marathon. We've got a long way to go. I think we have a lot of good strength and reasons to be hopeful. We have to figure out the best way to do that, what we're going to do. And obviously the budget situation is unconscionable. I mean, the level of underfunding of public education, particularly in the state of California, we have the most students in the country, and we are now funding at the lowest level per student in the country. So we are tearing away at the fabric of democracy. We are disrespecting our children and each other by this funding structure in California. We have to do something radically different. However, you can talk about that, but what are you going to do locally? I mean, we're going to have to cut another $20 million. So as I set this agenda and do work with the people in the first 100 days, it's like, what are our core purposes? What are the trade-offs? And then how are we going to do that together? I mean, how are we going to stand in that together? So I have to be really mindful that I have to be aggressive to get that out there, but also this is going to be a long, long haul. So to get that balance right, that's kind of what I'm looking at in the first 100 days.
Well, I went to Ralph J. Lunch. I just graduated this year. And it's a continuation school. You know where that's at in West Oakland? Have you been there?
Not yet.
Okay. Now, Ralph Bunch is like, well, it's changed a lot. They've, cleaned it up a lot. When I first got there, it was chaos. Complete chaos. I mean, it was jugs, it was dice games, it was fights, it was teachers fighting with students. In like 3 of my classes, we didn't have a solid teacher. We had substitutes every day. So it's like, it was a lot of credits that I missed. And I almost didn't graduate this year because of it, And I really had to get on the grind and really, push myself. So what I want to know from you is, like, when it comes to going to like continuation schools and small schools, like, what are you going to do for those schools? Because like small schools like that, we only have not even close to 100, 200 people. Like, it's like in that area, in that region. So what exactly do you plan on like giving to them type of schools? Because I mean, we have Oakland Tech, we have Oakland High and Castlemont. Those are schools with hundreds of kids. But these are small schools that have kids that work very close with each other. So it's like we don't have a lot of programs. We only have like after school programs. But these big schools have all type of music programs and scholarship funding and all that type of stuff. So I want to know, what are you going to do for the small schools?
I have to get to understand what's happening at those schools and across the board, and hearing from you about some of your experience is helpful in that. I do think that we need to get clear on what our core expectations are, that what would every young person in Oakland experience in our schools, and then how do we ensure that experience is common. So we have to get clear about what the common expectations are, and then what's unique or different in terms of different schools or different opportunities. So, but we have to set some kind of common expectation that every one of the young people in Oakland will experience a highly qualified teacher in their classroom every day. That they'll feel safe and secure. That regardless of where they come from in Oakland, they feel like they can get to and from school safely. And when they're in school, they're feeling respected, connected, and that their level of distress is so low that they can learn, they can explore things. That the place actually feels like that's where they belong. There's a sense of, this place is mine, like a sense of community in the school. I think small schools have a powerful way of doing that because you are deeply connected. Some of the downside of small is you don't have some of the other opportunities that you were talking about, and I think we have to figure out how do we get every one of the young people in our district to have access to those opportunities. Specifically, some of the campuses, I know they share schools. Some of the continuation schools don't have all of those other supports. This is my second week on the job. I honestly don't know enough to say what specifically I will do at Bunch or other places. But I do know philosophically where I stand, and that will guide my decisions.
We appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming here and talking to us about, the schools I come from, the schools he looks at, and just like our environment. And I'm looking up to you right now.
Thank you.
I have a lot of faith in you.
I appreciate it, Venus. Thank you very much.
I'm going to hold you accountable to it.
Please, that's what I'm here for.
Definitely. Best of luck to you, though. Definitely.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thanks for coming through. YMI Youth Radio, Pendarvis Harshaw,
Venus Morris,
and Tony Smith. Peace.